Mahiya naman kayo. These are the very exact words uttered by the President 8 months ago. Yes, Mr. President, 8 buwan na mula nang tumambad sa sambayanang Pilipino at sa buong mundo ang malawakang anomalya at korupsyon sa likod ng mga flood control projects. Pagkatapos ng 8 buwan, natukoy na ba kung sino ang mga walang hiya? Since the first Blue Ribbon hearing last August 19, 2025, the public has watched closely, anticipating the outcome of our inquiries and investigations. The demand for transparency and accountability did not subside. It has only grown louder. Despite the increasing public clamor for transparency and accountability, we are stuck in a maze of indecision and complacency, waiting for a report that has long been overdue. Mr. President, as early as December of last year, the minority submitted its observations, findings, and recommendations based on the initial 6 public hearings of the Blue Ribbon Committee and labeled it a minority report, for lack of a better term. Let me be clear, it was not intended to disrespect the committee nor the Senate as a body. Fully aware of the hearings on the flood control anomalies that had not concluded, and in the absence of a committee report, the public has long been waiting. The report was not filed with the bills and index, but coursed through the office of the Senate President, hoping for proper disposition. The minority report was initiated out of our solemn duty to the Filipino people who were eagerly awaiting and demanding for the Senate's decisive action on the nationwide flood control scandal. Our intention was clear from the outset: to uncover the truth, hold people accountable, and propose legislative measures that will finally dismantle the deeply entrenched corruption that characterize our infrastructure projects. Ladies and gentlemen of this chamber, the people have waited long enough. It has been 7 months since the first Blue Ribbon hearing. For far too long, the public have been agitated, disgusted, and tormented by the thought that more than ₱1 trillion have been openly looted from the National Treasury. Yet to this day, no one has been held accountable except for the small fry. In several instances and interviews, the chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee has said that a partial committee report is to be released. Last November 24, 2025, the chair stated in an interview, and I quote, "Magsasubmit kami ng partial committee report based on info so far gathered during the previous hearing." Natapos ang Disyembre 2025, walang report. Then on January 14, 2026, during the kapihan sa Senado, another statement was made that the report was still being drafted by his staff, even chiding them for being inept. Are we supposed to depend solely on the capacity and perhaps the willingness of our staff to produce a report that the Filipino people have been waiting for? A report that is not merely a formality but a duty we owe to the public we serve. It was out of exasperation that on January 20, 2026, we took it upon ourselves to formally release the minority report in a press conference to prevent the findings of our inquiry from being stalled while the public continues to wait for answers. Yet again, on January 26, 2026, the chairman once again said that BRC's partial committee report was almost finished. Mr. President, the minority report was not done half-heartedly, nor was it done out of disregard for this institution. It was done because the Filipino people have been waiting for this chamber to tell them what has been found. The submission of a minority report therefore served a simple yet necessary and urgent purpose: to let our people know that something has been done, at least from our side. Sadly, after the minority's press conference, said report was vilified without even the courtesy of reading it. The BRC chairman was even blunt when he said that the place for the minority report is the trash bin. Sa basurahan, a submission anchored in the same hearings, 3 of which he actually presided, the same resource persons, and the same affidavits. Masasabi ba niyang pangbasura lang din ang lahat ng iyon? Kung itatapon sa basurahan ang ulat na ito, hindi ba't para na rin nating itinapon ang lahat ng ebidensya kasama na ang 2 privilege speeches niya na ginamit sa minority report? With due respect, the Senate was never meant to be a place where inconvenient findings are thrown into the trash bin just because they challenge the preferred narrative. The minority report exposes how ghost and defective blood control projects stem from systemic corruption embedded in the country's infrastructure planning, budgeting, and implementation processes. It unraveled a corrupt monitoring and quality control system that gave way to a normalized system of kickbacks, rigged bidding, and budget insertions involving lawmakers, DPWH officials, and favored contractors. Even as it recommended comprehensive reforms through proposed measures to address the issues across all stages of project implementation. Finally, the minority report raised serious concerns about veering away from the initial course of investigation, from pursuing major perpetrators to selective summoning of witnesses, intimidation or discrediting of whistleblowers, and the failure to summon key political figures. This shift will undermine public trust and weaken the truth-seeking function of the Blue Ribbon Committee. As we have witnessed, after the testimony of ex-Marine Sergeant Orly Gutesa, there has been a month-long halt in the investigation, giving the persons mentioned by him, John Paul Estrada and Mark Tiksay, to flee the country to parts unknown. The resignation of BRC chairman that followed already changed the narrative. Gutesa, the only witness who connected the money trail from Saldico to Martin Romualdez, was painted to have faked his notarized sworn statement. Siya pa ang tinakot kasuhan ng falsification of public documents at perjury. To rectify this, Mr. President, I just filed a disbarment complaint against Attorney Espera and administrative complaint against Executive Judge Season of Manila RTC. Meanwhile, on February 11, 2026, my office received what appears to be a draft report from the Blue Ribbon Committee, which can only assume to have originated either from the chairman's office or from the Blue Ribbon Committee which he chairs. What was transmitted to us, Mr. President, was a link to a PDF document bearing a watermark OS Marcoleta across each and every page. Yet the said partial report does not bear the signature of the chairman, a formality ordinarily expected of any report issued by a committee, particularly from the Blue Ribbon Committee. Given the circumstances, the status of the Blue Ribbon partial report is unclear, and it could easily be disowned or disavowed at a later time. In light of this, Mr. President, guidance is respectfully sought on how such a document should be properly regarded by this body. The same people were hell-bent on criticizing the manner by which the minority report was submitted, yet they have no qualms circulating a supposed committee report in a manner that lacks even the most basic formalities expected of an official document of this institution. Maybe because of the following observed weaknesses. In the BRC chairman's interview with Dos por Dos on DCRH as early as July 31, 2025, he alleged that there are at least 60 sitting congressmen who also acted as contractors of infrastructure projects in their own districts. In a press conference and in a press release dated August 10, 2025, posted on the Senate website, the BRC chairman disclosed that House members called him and that he had a list of 67 congressmen who were contractors. Yet he did not summon them to any BRC hearing. Why did he not name them, to be fair to the rest of the members of the House of Representatives? In the sworn statement of the Diskaya, 17 congressmen were also mentioned. Why were not they asked to appear before the committee? On the other hand, the statements of former Yusek Bernardo and his cohorts Alcantara and Hernandez, who named certain senators upon the intercession of the Department of Justice, were readily heralded as gospel truth. The chairman of the BRC has also named at least 11 contractors in his first and second privilege speeches, whom he crucified to be involved in the flood control mess. Bakit hindi na sila ipinatawag? Bakit iilan lang mula sa 11 kontratistang kanyang tinukoy ang aktual na humarap sa pagdinig? Bakit namimili? Ano ang ibig sabihin nito? Remarkably, on November 14, 2025, the BRC chairman invited former Speaker Martin Romualdez to testify in its 7th hearing. He did not appear. Then on January 22, 2026, as quoted by various media outlets, the chairman said that former Speaker Martin will be invited again. If he wants to attend, he is welcome. But he cannot be forced to come due to interparliamentary courtesy. This doctrine can be challenged in the light of Section 27, Article 2 of the 1987 Constitution, which reads, "The state will maintain honesty and integrity in the public service and take positive and effective measures against graft and corruption." This doctrine, Mr. President, which is not even part of our rules, is not absolute and should not prevail over a clear and categorical mandate of the Constitution. The members of Congress have no immunity from investigation, subpoena, or public scrutiny. If anything, those who occupy the highest offices in the government must be the first to answer, not the last to be asked. And on January 11, 2026, in a radio interview over DZBB, the BRC chairman said that there is no solid evidence linking former Speaker Martin Romualdez to the flood control controversy. This is deeply troubling not only for what was asserted, but for what was prematurely concluded because the records of the hearings clearly reveal otherwise. First, Gutesa, who appeared and categorically linked him to the controversy. Second, Saldico, in his several video feeds, identified him and others as the principal actor of this most despicable scandal. Third, at least 2 out of the 17 congressmen in Discaya's list reportedly referred to Martin Romualdez. Sa mga unang pagdinig ng Blue Ribbon Committee sa ilalim ng pamumuno ng kasalukuyang chairperson, iminungkahi ko po, Ginoong Pangulo, na anyayahan din si dating Governor Luis Chavez Singson na nagpahayag din ng kahandaan at kagustuhan na dumalo upang tumestigo sa mga flood control projects sa Ilocos. Wala rin pong nangyari, Ginoong Pangulo. We are now seeing a clear pattern in this mambo-jumbo that whenever a witness points to former Speaker Romualdez as being linked to the controversy, the credibility of that witness is quickly placed in question. In an ambush interview at the Senate on November 14, 2025, by various media outlets, the BRC chairman clarified that a remote sworn testimony will be allowed only if Saldico appears before Philippine Embassy or Consulate, and a request for a Zoom meeting under oath will be valid. First, Saldico fears for his life and therefore he cannot go to any Philippine embassy. Kung si Gutesa nga ay bigla na lang naglaho na parang bula. Sa halip na suportahan at pakinggan ang mga naglalantad ng katotohanan, sila'y pinababayaan at nailalagay pa sa panganib. Second, the statement is incorrect because under the Apostille Convention, which the Supreme Court already implemented under OCA Circular number 210-2023, Saldico can take his oath before any commissioned notary in Portugal or elsewhere in Europe. He doesn't have to do it before a Philippine consular office. All he has to do is for his sworn statement to be apostilled in that foreign country, and it will have the effect of a statement sworn before a Philippine consulate. In the 8th hearing on January 19, 2026, the BRC chairman stated, "Let me emphasize the point, or one point. We always go wherever or where the evidence leads us." We do not target any particular person, nor do we have the intention to cover up for anybody. If that is truly the guiding principle of this investigation, Mr. President, then several matters should have been highlighted and pursued with equal vigor. For instance, on November 18, 2025, he made a revelation during the plenary debates of the 2026 budget on general principles in the presence of DBCC officials. Sinabi niya na base sa usapan nila ni Yusek Bernardo, meron siyang may mga taong nagne-name drop sa Pangulo, tulad ni na Yusek Adrian Bersamin at Yusek Trajib Olaybar, na nagutos kay Saldico na ipasok sa BICAM yung insertions ng 100 billion. Panoorin po natin ang video, Mr. President.
Sabi niya, ang pagkaalam niya, kasama si Yusek Adrian Bersamin. 8 billion pesos, Mr. President, in at least 10 deliveries. The modus that yung arrangement nila is, may tigisa silang armored van. May armored van si Yusek Olaybar, may armored van siya, magpapark sa basement ng Diamond Hotel, darating yung van driven by Olaybar, and possibly, sabi niya, hindi siya sigurado, and possibly, along with Adrian Bersamin. Bakante yung armored van, ipapark, idadrive yung isang van na puno ng pera. Ranging from 800 million hanggang 2 billion. Umabot ng 2 billion only because sometime in March, yung kanyang date na sinasabi from, I think, March hanggang April, yung delivery. Very good nga raw siya, sabi ni Yusek Olaybar, kasi nakakapag-deliver. Ang biggest kasi naipon because March 11,
ngunit kailanman ay hindi po naimbitahan si Yusek Adrian Bersamin upang harapin at linawin ang akusasyong ito na mismong chairman pa ang nagsiwalat sa plenaryo. Earlier, on November 14, 2025, in an ambush interview, he already disputed the statement of Saldico about the alleged 100 billion insertions allegedly made by the President in the BICAM. Ang malinaw rito, Mr. President, ay magkakaibang pahayag at pagkakaunawa sa parehong issue. Isang senyales ng kontradiksyon na posibleng pagmamanipula na dapat sana'y malinaw at tapat sa publiko. This becomes particularly concerning in light of the second supplemental affidavit of former DPWH Undersecretary Roberto Bernardo dated November 10, 2025, where he disclosed that he handled 5 billion worth of projects for former DPWH Secretary Manuel Bunoan each year from 2023, 24 to 25, with kickbacks of 15% therefrom. From this kickback, 75% will be shared by Bunoan and Cabral. The 25% goes to Bernardo. Pinayagan din ng chairman ng BRC ang pakikialam ng DOJ sa mga pagdinig, lalo na sa pagpili ng mga gagawing testigo sa ilalim ng Witness Protection Program. Ito ay sa pamamagitan ng sapilitang pagre-require ng restitution na hindi naman hinihingi ng batas. Hindi rin po binigyan ng pansin ang mga naging kaganapan sa number 30 Tamarin Street, South Forbes, na binigyang diin ni Saldico sa isa sa marami niyang video revelations. Sinabi ni Saldico na nag-deliver siya ng 1 billion sa lugar na yon, 200 million noong December 2, 2025 at 800 million noong December 5, 2025. Ayon po kay Saldico, ang paghahatid ng 200 million ay ginamitan ng isang Grandia Elite. Yun namang 800 million ay ginamitan ng dalawang Grandia Elite. Ang mga ito ay tinanggap di umano ni Yusek Jojo Cadiz sakay ng kanyang Toyota Fortuner kasama ang kanyang driver. Ang mga perang ito ay inihatid daw sa bahay ng Pangulo sa Naray Street gamit ang mga nabanggit na mga sasakyan. Ang dami pong dapat inimbitahan upang linawin at maimbestigahan ang bagay na ito. Sa Yusek Jojo Cadiz at ang kanyang driver, ang mga opisyalis ng korporasyon na may-ari raw ng bahay, si Nelson Go na dami raw ni Martin Romualdez sa nasabing korporasyon. Ang security agency na bantay sa nasabing lugar upang makuha ang logbook ng pagpasok at paglabas ng mga sasakyan noong December 2 at December 5, 2025 o kaya ang CCTV footages para makilalang ganap ang mga sasakyan at drivers na may dala ng mga sasakyan at sa pagitan ng alas 9 hanggang alas 10 ng umaga. Sa halip, ang tinawag po ay dalawang babae na nagtakip pa ng mukha at hindi nagbigay ng sworn statement sa mga miyembro ng BRC. At nung tanungin ko sila, napansin naman po ninyo, Ginoong Pangulo, ang chairman pa ang sumasagot. Given the seriousness of these allegations, one cannot help but ask, why has Yusek Cadiz not yet been invited to testify before the BRC? The public deserves answers, but some key witnesses remain uninvited. In the same second supplemental affidavit of Bernardo, he further alleged that at least 5 cabinet secretaries and several undersecretaries had allocables recorded in what has come to be known as the Cabral files. On December 27, 2025, in a radio interview over DWIC, the BRC chairman echoed Bernardo's statement. At least 5 cabinet secretaries and some undersecretaries had allocables amounting to billions in the controversial 2025 budget. But the only names revealed were former DPWH Secretary Manuel Bonoan and former Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin. Who are these other unnamed secretaries? And were they the same secretaries referred to by Bernardo in his second supplemental affidavit? We may never know because they were never invited in any of the proceedings, despite the chairman's apparent knowledge of who they were. So one cannot help but wonder if the chairman himself knew about their identities and their involvement in this whole mess. Why were they not summoned in the succeeding Senate investigations? Why were certain individuals being shielded from scrutiny? Is there someone up there who would have been implicated or whose name would have been inevitably exposed had they been made to appear before the Senate? Mr. President, the matter does not end here. On February 24, 2026, a press conference was held in which one attorney, Levy Baligod, presented a joint affidavit from 18 former members of the Philippine Marine Corps, a former enlisted personnel of the Philippine Army, and a reservist of the Philippine Army. The affidavit alleges that they were involved in the delivery of maletas filled with cash to various recipients, purportedly under the orders of Saldico. Sila po ay nagpahayag ng kanilang mga nalalaman tungkol dito sa malupit na pandarambong sa Kaban ng Bayan. Nabanggit nilang muli ang 30 Tamarin Street sa South Forbes Park, gayon din ang 14 at 41 Nara Street. Nabanggit din ang opisina ni Saldico sa House of Representatives at bahay daw sa Aguado sa harap ng Malacanang. Kinumpirma rin nila na totoo ang mga inihayag ni Orly Gutesa sa nakalipas na pagdinig ng komite. Bukod pa rito, isa sa mga nagsalitang ex-Marines ay tumestigong isinama siya ni Saldico nang magatid daw ng 5 malalaking maleta sa bahay ng Pangulo sa Ilocos Norte. Ayon sa kanyang pahayag, si Congressman Sandro Marcos pa umano ang tumanggap ng pera at ilang oras lamang ang lumipas ay dumating rin daw ang Pangulo at ang unang ginang. Pero ano po ang ginawa ng chairman ng BRC? Sa halip na iharap sa taong bayan at diretsahang tanungin sa kanilang mga pahayag, kahagad na pinag-alinlanganan ang kanilang kredibilidad. Bago pa man masuri ang kanilang salaysay sa harap ng Senado, tila nabuo na ang isang konklusyon sa mismong chairman na dapat sana ay siyang magsiyasat nito. Ipinagkibit-balikat na lamang ang kanilang mga salaysay nang hindi man lang binigyan ng oportunidad na sumagot sa mga konklusyon at teorya. Kung ang kanilang mga pahayag ay hindi kapani-paniwala, lalong nararapat na sila'y paharapin sa isang formal at pagdinig upang doon mismo masubok ang kanilang inihayag. Ang chairman po ba ng BRC ang dapat magpasya kung sino ang dapat ipatawag sa pagdinig kung 20 ang bilang ng miyembro ng Blue Ribbon Committee. Nakonsulta po bang isa-isa ang mga miyembro ng BRC? Kinausap po ba, halimbawa, si Senador Bam, si Senador Kiko, si Senadora Risa, Senador Gatchalian? Nagkaroon po ba ng caucus? Nagkaroon po ba ng hearing man lang? Para pagpasyan po ang napakalaking bagay nito, Mr. President. Mr. President, sila ay matapang na nagsalita at handang tumestigo ayon sa kanilang nakita. Saksi sila sa kung saan at kanino dinala ang limpak-limpak na perang nakapaloob sa mga maleta, mga kahon at iba pang mga sisidlan na kanilang ginamit. Ano bang patunay pa ang dapat nilang ilabas para lamang sila'y inyong umpisahang pakinggan? O baka gusto nilang ang maliit pa ang magsalita? Hindi raw kapani-paniwala. Sila nga ang inutusang magdala ng pera, Ginoong Pangulo. Kaya ang tanong, ano bang kinakatakutan ng chairman? Ano na po ba ang nangyari sa pagsunod sa ebidensya? O piling ebidensya lamang ba ang susuriin at ipipikit na lamang ang mata sa iba? Ngayon sa Romans 1:18, nahayag mula sa langit ang puot ng Diyos laban sa lahat ng kalapastanganan at kasamaan ng mga taong dahil sa kanilang kasamaan ay hinahadlangan ng katotohanan. Hanggang kailan po itong tahasang pagharang sa katotohanan, Ginoong Pangulo? Ano na po ba ang nangyari sa makulay na kasaysayan ng Blue Ribbon Committee na sa mahabang panahon ay tiningala at nagsilbing isang bantayog sa pagtukoy at pagtutok sa mga katiwalian at pagdarambong na nagaganap sa ating burokrasya? Hanggang kailan po tayo maghahalokip-kip ng mga kamay sa harap ng malawakan at karumal-dumal na paglima sa ating kabangbayan? Hanggang kailan po maghihintay sa wala ang taong bayan na mistulang ninakawan sa tanghaling tapat? Hanggang kailan ang mistulang pagbubulag-bulagan, Ginoong Pangulo? Hanggang kailan po magtitiwala sa atin ang taong bayan na nandito tayo para proteksyonan ang kanilang kapakanan? Hanggang kailan po natin sila mapapaniwala na makakagawa pa tayo ng mabuti para sa kanila? Hanggang kailan po kaya ang pagmamaang-maangan, Ginoong Pangulo? Naghanap po ng kasagutan ang mga mamamayan. Hindi po bukas, hindi po sa makalawa. Ngayon na po, Ginoong Pangulo. Kasihan nawa ng Diyos ang ating bansa. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo.